Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly questioned what you were doing with your life? Most people are not poor because they lack money. They're poor because they lack clarity in thinking, in speaking, and in action. If you want to succeed, you must first think like a genius. That doesn't mean knowing everything. It means knowing how to ask better questions. Geniuses don't rush to answer. They pause, they reflect. They challenge their own thinking before they challenge others. Why do most people fail? Because they never stop to ask why they think the way they do. Now, thinking is good, but not enough. You have to speak success into existence. That doesn't mean fake confidence. It means speaking with purpose. The words you use shape the world around you. Talk like someone who believes in something bigger than excuses. And then comes the real test. Act rich. I don't mean buying expensive things. I mean living richly in mindset, rich in discipline, rich in self-respect, rich in risk, rich in resilience. The wealthy mind acts differently. It doesn't wait for permission. It builds before it's ready. It moves when others doubt. You don't need a genius IQ. You need critical awareness, courage to speak, and consistency in action. Think deeper, speak sharper, move smarter. That's how you turn thoughts into freedom. That's how you think like a genius. Speak success, act rich. The world doesn't need another smart person. It needs someone who thinks with fire, speaks with truth, and walks with power. The most dangerous thing in life is not ignorance, it's thinking you already know everything. Most people are walking around with ideas they never chose, beliefs passed down by family, education, society, religion, culture, absorbed like a sponge, never questioned. They carry these beliefs like truth, but they've never tested them. And what's worse, they build their entire life on top of them. If you never question what you believe, you can never grow past who you were yesterday. Progress begins when you start asking, why do I think this way? Where did this belief come from? Is it mine, or did someone hand it to me? That's not negativity, that's intelligence. Let me give you an example. A young man once told me, I can't be successful because I come from a poor family. I asked him, who told you that poverty is permanent? He didn't have an answer. That belief wasn't born in him. It was borrowed from people who gave up. Another example, some people believe they aren't smart because they struggled in school, but school only teaches you how to memorize, not how to think. Albert Einstein once said, "Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think." Just because you don't fit into a system doesn't mean you're broken. It could mean the system wasn't designed for your kind of mind. When you question your beliefs, you're not being disrespectful, you're being awake. Blind loyalty to tradition is what keeps people stuck in average. Critical thinkers don't rebel for the sake of rebelling. They examine, they reflect. They don't accept ideas just because they're popular. They accept ideas because they've tested them. Your brain is like software. If you never update it, it becomes outdated. You're running on mental programs written 10, 15, 20 years ago. Programs that said, don't take risks, play it safe. Money is evil, you're not good enough. Who wrote those lines in your head? And why are you still running them? The world is changing fast. And what worked 10 years ago might not work today. The people who survive, the ones who thrive, are not the strongest. They're the most mentally flexible. They know how to let go of old thinking when it stops serving them. Look at the most successful people on this planet. They were all challenged, they were all told they were wrong. Many of them were laughed at in the beginning, but they were not committed to being right. They were committed to truth. And truth is something you find through questioning, through discomfort, through failure. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come when you challenge your own deepest beliefs. Maybe success isn't what your parents said it was. Maybe happiness doesn't look the way movies told you it would. Maybe working hard isn't the only way. Maybe working smart is more important. But you'll never know unless you sit with your beliefs, hold them to the light, and ask, is this helping me or holding me back? And this doesn't stop at personal beliefs. You must also question how you view others. Do you judge people before you understand them? Do you dismiss advice because it doesn't fit your worldview? Do you block opportunity because it feels unfamiliar? Comfort zones are mental prisons. The walls are built from beliefs. And the only way to break free is to question those beliefs brick by brick, thought by thought. It takes courage, it takes humility, it takes time, but nothing powerful comes easy. Thinking like a genius starts not with more knowledge, but with more curiosity, not with answers, but with better questions. In every room, there are two types of people: those who speak to be heard, and those who speak to be felt. One is trying to impress, the other is trying to influence. One wants attention, the other wants impact. You must decide which one you want to be. When people speak just to impress others, you can tell right away. They use complicated words, long sentences, technical jargon, and nobody really understands what they're saying. They think sounding smart is the same as being smart. It's not. True intelligence isn't how complex you can make something. It's how clearly you can explain it to a 5-year-old. Influential people speak differently. They don't try to overwhelm you, they try to connect with you. They speak like water, simple, clear, flowing. They know how to translate big ideas into small, unforgettable messages. Their words land in your mind, but they hit your heart first. In business, I've seen it again and again. The best leaders aren't always the best talkers, but they are the best communicators. They know how to tell a story. They know how to inspire. They know how to inspire. They know how to paint a picture of the future so clearly that other people want to be part of it. Let me give you a real life story. There was a young entrepreneur who had an amazing product, but every time he pitched it, people got confused. He talked too fast, used too many technical terms, tried to sound like a Silicon Valley genius. But investors didn't bite. They didn't see the vision. One day a mentor told him, if you can't explain your business in one clear sentence, you don't understand it well enough. That changed everything. He simplified his pitch. He spoke to connect, not to convince, and within a year he raised millions. Why? Because people invest in people who make them feel something. Not just with logic, but with clarity, with emotion, with certainty. The goal of language is not to win arguments, it's to win hearts. It's to move people, to guide decisions, to shape belief. That's the real power. Look at the most successful public figures. They don't speak in the fanciest language. They speak with conviction. Their tone is steady. Their message is sharp. Their words are easy to repeat because simplicity spreads. If no one remembers what you said, then what's the point of speaking? Some people think that if they speak simply, they'll sound uneducated. That's wrong. Simplicity is not a lack of intelligence, it's proof of mastery. You don't have to use big words to create big change. You just have to speak with purpose. Another thing, watch your tone. Watch your body language. Watch your timing. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Influence comes from confidence, not arrogance. From empathy, not ego. You have to make people feel seen. You have to make them trust that you understand where they're coming from. This applies to everything. Business meetings, interviews, relationships, social media. Every time you speak, you're either building credibility or losing it. You're either lifting people or pushing them away. You're either opening minds or closing doors. And here's the trap. The smarter you become, the more tempted you'll be to show off. Don't. Real influence doesn't need decoration, it needs direction. Speak in a way that leads people somewhere. Not just into confusion, not into your ego, but into action. The world is noisy. Everyone's talking, but very few are communicating. If you can become the person who speaks clearly, who speaks with honesty, who speaks with meaning, people will listen. Not because you're loud, but because your voice carries weight. Everybody wants to think big. They make vision boards, write down goals, talk about dreams in front of their friends. That's the easy part. Big thinking is free. You can sit in your room and imagine anything. You can talk for hours about your million-dollar ideas. But thinking big means nothing if you don't act bold. Bold action is where dreams get tested. It's where your courage meets your commitment. It's where most people stop because acting bold means taking risk, facing rejection, dealing with failure, and being seen, trying. That's uncomfortable. And most people don't want uncomfortable. Let me be clear. There's a huge difference between someone who dreams and someone who builds. Dreamers imagine, builders execute. Dreamers hope, builders hustle. Dreamers wait for the perfect moment. Builders move with what they have. I've met so many smart people with brilliant ideas who never took the first step. They were waiting for more money, more experience, more confidence. But the truth is, those things only come after action. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. Clarity comes from motion, not from sitting and thinking. Bold action means doing the thing before you feel ready. It means sending the email, making the pitch, recording the video, launching the business. Not when everything is perfect, but when everything in you says, what if I fail? That's when you go. That's when you grow. Look at every successful entrepreneur, artist, or leader you admire. They didn't just think big. They made moves when they had nothing but belief. They acted when it didn't make sense. They launched things that looked small. They risked being wrong. And that boldness is what separated them from everyone else who was just waiting. Thinking big without action is like planning a journey, but never leaving your driveway. You feel productive, but you're not moving. You're just busy being stuck. Some people are addicted to planning. They create 5-year maps, 10th ep formulas, market research reports. That's fine, but at some point you have to step into the ring and take the first hit. And yes, bold action means failure, but failure in motion is better than safety in silence. When you fail forward, you gain something most people never get experience. Real experience. The kind that builds decision-making skills, leadership strength, and thick skin. Every bold move teaches you something, even if it doesn't work out. Sometimes boldness means doing the opposite of what everyone around you says. It means quitting the safe job, moving to a new city, speaking up when it's unpopular, trying something no one else believes in. It might make you look crazy at first, but later it makes you unstoppable. Fear loves to disguise itself as logic. It says, wait until you're more prepared. It says, you don't want to risk everything, but bold thinkers know that playing small is the biggest risk of all. Playing safe keeps you invisible. Playing small keeps you dependent. You can't build a life of freedom with a mindset built on fear. And bold action doesn't always mean big gestures. Sometimes it's the small, consistent choices that take the most guts. Waking up earlier, saying no to distractions, reaching out to someone you admire, asking for the opportunity. Boldness is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. You have to train yourself to move fast, fail fast, learn fast. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. The people who win are not the ones who had the best ideas. They're the ones who acted when others hesitated. The difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck is simple. Successful people solve problems, while average minds look for ways to escape them. One group faces reality head-on. The other group runs into distractions, excuses, blame, or denial. Most people don't fail because the problem is too big. They fail because their mindset is too small. The moment a challenge shows up, they freeze, they complain, they start thinking, why is this happening to me? Instead of asking, what can I learn from this? That one question changes everything. Every problem you face is a test of your patience, your creativity, your character. It's not a punishment, it's an invitation to grow. And if you keep running from problems, they'll just follow you, disguised in different shapes with new names, but the same lessons waiting to be learned. A person who escapes their problems never learns how to think. They numb themselves with entertainment. They avoid hard conversations. They procrastinate on hard decisions. They'd rather stay in their comfort zone than develop problem-solving skills. But life doesn't care about your comfort. It rewards your ability to adapt, to respond, to rise above. Think about this. Behind every success story is a long list of problems that were solved. Companies exist because someone solved a problem. Products were created because someone asked, how can I make this better? Leaders became leaders not because everything went right, but because they stayed in the fire long enough to figure out how to fix what was going wrong. You don't build mental strength in peace, you build it in pressure. And that pressure comes from problems that demand attention. Great minds are not problem-free, they're solution-driven. They stay calm under pressure, not because it's easy, but because they've trained themselves to think in chaos. If a business is losing money, you don't shut it down immediately, you look for where the leak is. If your relationships are struggling, you don't cut people off every time something feels hard. You try to understand what's not working. If your life is going nowhere, you don't blame the economy, your boss, or your past. You sit with yourself and figure out where you've been avoiding accountability. The people who go far in life don't wait for problems to disappear. They face them with strategy. They break them down piece by piece. They learn how to look at a situation and ask, what's within my control right now? They don't panic. They don't complain endlessly. They take action. Escaping problems is like covering a wound without cleaning it. It looks fine on the outside, but underneath, it's getting worse. You're myself. Suffer just as much as the addictions. So does the addiction. That doesn't mean that I do it, but this is sort of trend that is current. And the longer you avoid it, the more it costs you in time, energy, reputation, or relationships. Sometimes the only way out is through. You have to go through the hard thing. You have to sit with it, understand it, and work through it. Some people spend years stuck because they never learn to think in problems. They think in emotions, they think in fears, but not in logics, not in solutions. That's why critical thinking matters. It's not just about IQ. It's about how you respond when life throws something at you that you didn't expect. The most powerful skill you can build is the ability to stay calm under pressure, to gather your thoughts, and to start solving instead of escaping. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be the person who refuses to run away. That mindset alone puts you in the top 5% of people who will figure it out eventually, no matter what life throws their way. Emotions are powerful. They can either fuel your decisions or ruin them. Most people don't fail because they're not smart. They fail because they're driven by uncontrolled emotions. They react instead of responding. They panic instead of planning. They explode when they should observe. In this world, the person who can control their emotions will always have an advantage over the one who can't. Look at how people behave under pressure. Someone insults them and they get angry. Someone rejects them and they shut down. Something unexpected happens and they fall apart. That's emotional control, or the lack of it. And when emotions run wild, logic shuts off. You start saying things you regret, making choices that don't make sense. You make temporary decisions that cause permanent damage. Leaders are not leaders because they know everything. They're leaders because they can stay calm when everyone else is losing their mind. They understand that emotion is a signal, not a solution. When fear rises, they acknowledge it, but they don't let it drive the steering wheel. When disappointment hits, they feel it, but they don't let it block their vision. Emotion may show up, but logic stays in control. It's not about suppressing your feelings. That's unhealthy. It's about directing them. Emotions are energy. Use them. Don't let them use you. Anger can give you urgency. Fear can make you prepare better. Sadness can make you reflect deeply. But when these emotions are unfiltered, unexamined, and untrained, they turn into bad decisions and wasted potential. Let me tell you something important. Success is emotional management. If you can't handle criticism, you'll never take big risks. If you can't manage doubt, you'll quit halfway. If you can't deal with jealousy, you'll destroy your focus. You could have the best skills in the room, but if you're ruled by emotion, you'll throw all away the moment pressure hits. People who win consistently are emotionally stable, not numb, not robotic, stable. They don't overreact to small problems. They don't celebrate too early. They don't let temporary feelings change long-term plans. They have trained themselves to pause, process, and proceed with logic. That's discipline, and discipline wins when talent doesn't. Here's the truth. You can't control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. The market will crash, people will betray you, plans will fall apart. If your peace depends on everything going right, you'll never make it far. But if you can stay mentally grounded while everything shakes around you, you become unshakable. There's a reason emotional intelligence is more valuable than raw IQ in business and life. People want to follow someone who can stay cool under fire. Investors want to back someone who doesn't flinch when things get hard. Partners want someone who brings clarity, not chaos. Emotional control earns trust, and trust is the currency of influence. Some of the worst decisions in your life will come from moments when your emotions were louder than your logic. That argument you wish you hadn't started, that deal you rushed into, that opportunity you walked away from because fear got too loud. It all comes back to one thing: you let emotion lead and logic got silenced. That's why every high performer builds a system, a mental checklist, a reset routine, a way to come back to logic quickly. Whether it's taking a walk, writing down thoughts, calling a mentor, or just breathing, they have a process to calm the mind and think clearly again. The faster you return to logic, the better your decisions, the more consistent your progress. You don't have to be emotionless, but you must be emotionally mature. Maturity is when your feelings don't hijack your focus. It's when you feel everything, but still choose what makes sense. Emotion gives color to life, but logic gives direction. When both work together, you're unstoppable. But when emotion overpowers logic, even the smartest people lose their way. In conclusion, improving your critical thinking isn't about sounding smarter, it's about living smarter. In a world full of noise, opinions, and distractions, the ability to think clearly, speak intentionally, and act courageously is your ultimate advantage. Geniuses don't just know more, they question more. They challenge their own beliefs. They stay curious and they think independently. That's where transformation begins. But thinking alone doesn't change your life. You must learn to speak success. The language you use influences the people around you and the direction of your own life. Don't speak to impress, speak to impact. Let your words be clear, bold, and rooted in purpose. Then comes the most important part, action. Big thoughts and sharp words mean nothing without bold movement. Act rich in discipline. Act rich in standards. Act rich in how you treat your time, your goals, and your future. The greatest minds didn't wait to be perfect. They train their minds, discipline their mouths, and move with power even when afraid. That's how you rise. That's how you build. That's how you lead. Not just with knowledge, but with awareness, clarity, and fearless execution.